Ask the average Canadian car owner to name the biggest automotive expense and the vast majority will get it wrong. While many assume it's fuel, insurance or maintenance and repair costs, only 2% will correctly identify depreciation as the greatest expense associated with car ownership. In order to get the most out of the dollars, Canadians need to consider how the value of the vehicle will change over the lifetime of the loan, something Canadian Black Book is trying to call attention to in hosting its annual Retained Value Awards. Now in its 11th year, the annual event celebrates vehicles, brands and categories that retain the highest percentage of their original MSRP after 4 years. Top honors for the 2014 model year, announced on Tuesday, go to Toyota in both the car and truck and crossover SUV category, while Porsche takes the crown for luxury vehicles. Toyota also came out on top in 9 individual categories, leading all other manufacturers for the 11th consecutive year. Story continues below advertisement. The 2014 Jeep Wrangler held 91% of its original MSRP. The small-size pickup category, led by the Toyota Tacoma, retained 73% of its value as an entire segment. The next strongest categories are the full-sized luxury crossover SUV, led by the Chevrolet Tahoe, and full-sized pickup, led by the Toyota Tundra. Each segment retained 61% of original MSRP as a whole. The Chevrolet Tahoe topped the full-size luxury crossover SUV category. Chevrolet Toyota vehicles also led the subcompact car Prius C, compact car Prius V, midsize car Camry, full-size car Avalon, luxury car Lexus GS, Minivan Sienna, midsize crossover FJ Cruiser categories. The Toyota Camry led the midsize car category. David Dewhurst Photography. Toyota produces vehicles Canadians inherently see as desirable, both new and used, and the brand also has a reputation for quality, reliability and durability, so that helps a lot, said Brian Murphy, the Vice President of Research and Editorial at Canadian Black Book. Murphy explains that the Retained Value Awards hope to bring attention to an element of car ownership that suffers a dangerous lack of understanding. He says that many Canadians only learn that they're in a negative equity situation upon trading it in, when the vehicle has depreciated to a value that is less than the outstanding balance of the loan. Most consumers are probably somewhat in the dark about it. They just assume all vehicles go down by a fixed amount each year, but if that were the case, my job would be a lot simpler, he said. Every vehicle ages at a different rate. According to Murphy, the proliferation of negative equity car owners began after the financial crisis of 2008, when the average loan term jumped from its previous average of 5 years. More than half of Canadians are financing the car for 84 months or greater, that's 7 years plus, and they remain in a negative equity position for so much longer, he said. J.D. Power's latest research showed that more than 30% of Canadians now have negative equity when trading the vehicle in. Story continues below advertisement. This year, the market average for value retention after 4 years was 53%, with 2014 vehicles surpassing last year's contenders by 2.5%. While retained value increased overall, however, there is a wide range in retention between categories. Subcompact vehicles, for example, only maintained an average of about 40% of their original value over 4 years, while small pickups retained 73% during that same period. The 8-year reigning champion, the Jeep Wrangler, shattered the all-time record this year, with the 2014 model holding on to 91% of its original value. The 2014 model of the Jeep Wrangler held on to 91% of its original value. Jeep. Generally speaking, electric vehicles don't do very well in retaining the values, and certainly the smaller subcompact cars don't do well either, said Murphy, adding that the rapid pace of electric vehicle innovation has deemed earlier iterations obsolete much sooner than industry averages. Probably the most important factor, however, is the brand, because over time certain manufacturers have certain habits with respect to pricing and how they spend their incentive dollars on new vehicles, how they handle vehicles at the end of lease, things like that, Murphy said. The lesson Murphy hopes Canadians take away from the Best Retained Value Awards is the importance of taking a longer view when purchasing a new vehicle, rather than going with instinct alone. Buying a car is really an emotional decision, but I just urge people to consider whether the vehicle will continue to meet the family's needs over the 7 or 8 years they are financing it, he said. Story continues below. Advertisement. Murphy advises Canadians to consider the car they will need at the end of the financing term, not what they desire at the beginning, before making a decision. He adds that those certain they want to sign a 7+ year loan should take this list into strong consideration before making a decision, while those anticipating any major lifestyle changes during the period should maybe consider leasing a vehicle for a shorter term instead. Shopping for a new car. Check out the new Globe Drive Build and Price tool to see the latest discounts, rebates and rates on new cars, trucks and SUVs. Click here to get your price.